You're sitting in the quiet of your new life, thinking the war is finally over, when a single notification lights up the dark. They aren't just back for a conversation, they are back for a biological reboot of their dying ego. Tonight, we expose the specific, dark intimacy they crave from you after a long separation, and why your body is the only pharmacy that can save them from their own decay. Imagine a parasite that has been starving in the cold, wandering through low-grade hosts, only to remember the vintage sunlight you once provided. They aren't reaching out because they miss your soul, they are reaching out because their internal battery is flashing red. The long separation has turned their confidence into a hollow, brittle mask that is starting to crack under the pressure. The big haunting question isn't why they left, but why they secretly want your surrender now, after months or even years of silence. We are performing a clinical autopsy on the reboot seduction. You will learn how they use the memory of your past connection to hack into your current boundaries, seeking a somatic high that can temporarily delay their inevitable psychological collapse. In this breakdown, we expose the narcissist's hidden famine, a state where they have exhausted all other mirrors and are returning to the only one that ever truly saw them as a god. They want a specific, high-frequency physical reaction that proves they still have the power to override your logic. It is a biological heist designed to steal your peace and leave you with their toxic residue. Why does the predator target the empath's bed after a long period of silence? Because your empathy is a high-grade fuel that they cannot find in the transactional world of strangers. They are addicted to the energy transfer that happens when you let them back into your most sacred space. Today, we reveal the disgusting reality behind their charm. They are here to feed, not to feel. Stay with me, because we are pulling back the cinematic curtains on the narcissist's secret somatic agenda. We will explore the averaging habit they use to normalize their return and the biological debt they are trying to pay off using your vitality. This isn't just about a hookup, it is a dark, documentary-like look at the final desperate moves of a soul that has completely flatlined. Think about the psychological weight of being a person who only feels solid when someone else is submitting to them. When the world stops looking, the narcissist begins to dissolve into gray static. To stop this, they return to you after a long separation, craving an intimacy that is essentially a power play. They want to see the light go out in your eyes so theirs can flicker for a moment. Most people think the narcissist is an invincible master of seduction, but in reality, they are emotional scavengers picking through the debris of your old love. They are gasping for air in a vacuum of their own design, and your intimacy is the only oxygen tank they have left. They didn't come back for love. They came back for a biological reboot to hide the rot they carry in their marrow. Tonight, we deliver the final truth punch. You are not a victim of their undying desire, you are a survivor of a spiritual heist that is trying to repeat itself. The narcissist is terrified of the dark because the dark is where the echoes of everyone they destroyed come back to haunt them. They want to use your touch to drown out those voices, but the debt is finally coming due in full. This first chapter is your sanctuary of clarity. You've blamed yourself for the chemistry you still feel, but that chemistry is a weapon they've spent years refining. They lost the bet the moment you decided your peace was worth more than their dopamine hit. As we move into the breakdown, remember, their physical need is the only honest thing they own. The lights are finally on them. To understand this post-separation hunger, we must analyze the somatic machinery of a body that has run out of its own heat. A narcissist is a human-shaped vacuum, and after a long gap, they have siphoned every other source dry. They return to you because you are a high-value target with a history of empathy. They need the friction of your body to convince themselves they are still solid. Metaphorically, they are like a fading hologram trying to re-establish a link with the original server, you. The long separation has introduced a lag in their identity. They secretly want a specific type of intimacy that involves your total submission, a biological signature that they still own the temple they once desecrated. This isn't love, it is a clinical data extraction to fix their glitch. Their hidden motive for the return is internal regulation through somatic conquest. A narcissist cannot regulate their own emotions, they need to offload their toxic waste into a receptacle. After a long absence, the poison in their system has reached a lethal level. They want to have sex with you to dump their shame into your spirit, walking away refreshed while you feel heavy and aged. We must talk about the narcissistic void as a spiritual hunger that eats character. Because they have no internal pilot, they are blown by the winds of validation. When the physical supply from strangers becomes tasteless, they remember your vintage fire. Their secret want is to extinguish that fire one more time. It is a biological confirmation that they are still the master of your soul. Imagine a star that has run out of fuel. It begins to contract and collapse under its own gravity. That is the narcissist in the months following your escape. They have burned through all their low-grade supply, and the void is calling them back to the abyss. They seek you out because they are trying to outrun the darkness. They are isolated in a cold universe, even while they are lying. Their internal chaos is a static storm of projective identification. In the dark, they start to project their own self-loathing onto the memory of your body. This is why they return with such aggressive intensity. They need to turn you into the host again so they don't have to face the mirror. They would rather have a war in the sheets than live in the quiet peace of the absolute truth. The narcissist is a somatic junkie who has worn out their reward circuitry. They've spent decades chasing the dopamine of conquest, but the law of diminishing returns has kicked in. The sex they want from you after a long separation is a desperate, low-vibration attempt to feel a pulse. They are anhedonic, incapable of peace, and they are pacing their way to their inevitable funeral. In the twilight hours, the narcissist experiences somatic dissociation. They literally lose the ability to feel their own presence without your reaction. They need the friction of your skin to convince them they are solid objects in a world of ghosts. Without that friction, they feel like they are dissolving into gray static. They are ghosts in a suit, haunting the beds of the living. Deep down, the narcissist finds human vulnerability to be repulsive. It reminds them of their own fragility. They despise you for the very love you once gave them, yet they are starving for it. In this state of prolonged famine, the disgust is splashbacking onto them. They are disgusted by their own face, and they want to use your desire to mask the stench of their own internal decay. The psychological breakdown reveals an abuser as a closed system running out of energy. They are cooling down to absolute zero in the absence of your radiant heat. Their biological rot is the end of the motion. As we move into the turning point, you will see what happens when the empath finally switches off the lights. You are going to see the power shift from the ghost back to the sun. The dramatic turning point arrives in the absolute stillness of your indifference. It happens the moment you stop trying to explain why you won't let them in. You stop defending your boundaries. You stop reacting to their sexual hoovering. This is the psychological plot twist. They have been baiting you for years, but today, the hook finds only deep, cold, and very still water. Free. Watch the narcissists panic when the mirror refuses to reflect their fake vitality. They are addicts who have been cut off by the dealer. They will try a hysterical hoover, offering you the most intense physical promises just to see if the old strings still pull. But you are not moving. This stillness is traumatic to the predator. They scent their own irrelevance. You are finally gone. This is the moment of internal sovereign alignment where you realize the chemistry was a filter they placed over your eyes. You take the filter off and see the abuser for what they actually are, a small, frightened, empty shell screaming for attention. The rot is visible now. You don't feel anger anymore, you feel clinical observation. You are now the scientist, they are the specimen. When the physical bait fails, they pivot to strategic victimhood. They will use their age, their illnesses, or their loneliness to guilt-trip you into resuming the somatic bond. They are frantically trying to load the syringe of their shame and inject it into your compassion. But you see the calculation. You recognize the performance. By naming the demon, you strip its power forever. The silence of the empath becomes the acid that accelerates the rot. Without your empathy to heal the wounds they self-inflict, the abuser's internal injuries fester. They start fighting with the strangers they tried to replace you with. They are spiraling into chaos because they cannot exist without a calm center to disturb. You were that anchor, and you have finally cut the rope today. They attempt a malignant discard to save the last shred of their ego. They announce to the world that you are the one who is cold or unloving. This is a psychological confession of their internal failure. They are projecting their own biological death onto you. But you are relieved. You accept the discard like a promotion. You watch them walk out and feel the density finally lift. Show the shift in the energetic signature of your life. The moment the abuser is gone, the space sanctifies. You strip the bed, you burn the sage, and you open the windows. You realize that the secret want was a contagion they brought into your temple. Now that the carrier is gone, your vitality returns. You breathe into your center and feel the radiance of your own sovereign spirit. This is a psychological shift. You forgive the vessel for absorbing the rot. You realize your body was just trying to survive a toxic spill. You nurture the flesh with self-respect. You realize the relationship was a dark initiation that forced you to find your internal sword. You thank the trauma for breaking the mirror and revealing the sovereign. You have finally graduated the darkness. This is the moment of total detachment. You look at the past and you don't feel pain, you feel physics. You see the mechanism of the energy transfer. The abuser is a name you barely remember, a minor malfunction in the great machine of your evolution. The turning point is absolute. You are inhabiting your life with an intensity that is terrifying to the weak. You are finally home now. As we move into the collapse, remember, the abuser depends on your reaction to stay 3D. By withdrawing your focus, you have deleted their existence in your universe. They are going to panic. They are going to burn their own world down to get your attention. But you are no longer the firefighter. You are watching the fire from the high ground, safe in your own solar and divine power. The collapse of the narcissist is a spectacle of absolute void. When the empath stops absorbing the rot, the abuser's false self shatters from the internal pressure of its own nothingness. They experience narcissistic mortification, the psychic death they've been running from since childhood. You will see them acting out with manic recklessness. Their mask is melting away like acid. Their social consequences are swift and public. As the recovered empath moves through the world with quiet dignity and icy indifference, the abuser's smear campaign evaporates into the stench of desperation. The truth has its own gravity. People start seeing the pattern of the withered victims the abuser leaves behind. You are the witness who survived the clinical and dark autopsy. The internal panic of the abuser becomes a manic screaming for new supply that no longer exists in your space. They look for you in every face they exploit, but no one can reflect the God image you once gave them. They are starving for the high-grade empathy your sacred energy used to provide, but the pharmacy is permanently closed. They killed the golden goose for their own sport. Watch the harsh truth of their new life. They look old. They look gray. They look brittle. The life force they stole from you has expired, and they have no internal reactor to generate more. They are cursed to repeat the same loop with lesser and lesser souls until they draw their last breath. They are trapped in a body that is closing down, haunted by the memory of your radiant sun. The tone is brutally cold and analytical. The abuser is a parasite that underestimated the resilience of the empath. By moving on spiritually, you have executed the predator. They are the walking dead, carrying the corpse of their own ego. They hate you for surviving their spiritual warfare. Every breath of peace you take is a poison to their delusion. They are collapsing into void. Internal panic leads to pathological stalking of your happiness. They analyze your every post, searching for a sign of pain, a sign of return. But they find nothing but strength. This strength is traumatic to the abuser. It debunks their God complex. It proves they are just a glitch in your evolution. They are screaming from the shadows, trying to cast a spell you no longer hear now. The social discard concludes with the final isolation. The flying monkeys have woken up. The family has distanced themselves. The abuser is left alone with the ghost of the one they couldn't destroy. This isolation is the mirror they feared their whole life. In the silence, they are forced to hear the echoes of their own lies. They are stroking the air where you used to be, alone. Brutally truthful analysis. The abuser failed because they miscalculated the resilience of the spirit. They thought they could starve the empath, but they only forced the empath to hibernate and evolve. Once you wake up and retain your energy, you are invisible to their manipulation. The narcissist is a shadow that cannot exist in the presence of your internal and solar truth. Intensify the collapse. You watch their disintegration with a sense of sacred justice. You don't feel vengeance, you feel order. You see that the world is actually safe because you are the one who defines your reality. The abuser's rage is a distant noise that no longer reaches your frequency. You are living at a depth they cannot reach. The monster is finally, clinically, dead. As we enter the final truth, look at the ruin of the abuser and realize, you are the winner. The rot was just the shell of your evolution. You have found the key. You have opened the door. You have walked into the world and the world recognized you. The final truth is cinematic, empowering, and saturated with radiance. The collapse is complete. The sunrise is now internal. We have reached the final truth. The narcissist's secret want was never about pleasure, it was about the desperate need to inhabit your light so they wouldn't have to face their own darkness. You were never the problem, you were the life raft for a soul that chose to drown. The night doesn't belong to the predator anymore. It belongs to the soul that has finally found the sun. Emotional closure comes from the absolute knowledge that the abuser never existed as the person you loved. You were in love with a reflection of your own empathy. Today, you have taken the reflection back. You are closing the case file on the predator. You have realized that their hate was a badge of honor. A being of darkness will always hate the sun. You are the sun. Shine. Healing is the cinematic slow burn of presence. It is the feeling of the ground under your feet, the sound of your own voice telling the truth, and the sight of a future that is unwritten and safe. You are reprogramming your nervous system to expect beauty and respect. You are learning that empathy is a superpower, not a sentence. You are finding your soul in the quiet of today. Empowerment is the quiet strength of the empath who refused to stay defined by the predator. You have seen the bottom of the abyss and you brought back the fire. You are unshakable. The narcissist's screams from the shadows are just background noise in the symphony of your life. You have changed the frequency. You are tuned into the voice of the universe and the holy earth. You are part of a global awakening of sovereign empaths who are refusing to be supply. We are collective strength. We are spiritually invincible. The narcissist's obsession with your energy was the last stand of a dying parasite. The age of the predator is ending. The age of the authentic is beginning. Your voice is a siren of truth for others who are still shaking in the dark. Imagine the final scene. You are standing on a mountain peak at dawn. The wind is blowing through your spirit, cleansing the last traces of the abuser's shadows. Below you, the dark valley of the narcissistic trap is dissolving in the light of the new day. Above you, the sky is exploding with colors you can finally see. Kimberly. You are whole. You are complete. You are home. Cinematic closing imagery. The abuser is now a distant ghost, stalking the ruins of a life they burnt. They are screaming at the wind, begging the dust to become the host. Kimberly. But the dust stays dust. You are flesh and blood, light and fire, moving at the speed of joy. You have found your tribe. You have found your peace. The spiritual necrosis was just a dark, heavy cocoon. The final truth deliverance. The narcissist tried to kill the empath because they were terrified of what would happen if the soul went sovereign. They wanted to keep you as a battery, but the battery exploded into a sun. You are magnificent. You are unstoppable. You have won the game by walking off the field. You have ascended beyond the manipulation. The ghost is clinically dead. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your right to walk the earth with confidence and dignity. The sexual killer, the psychological parasite, and the emotional arsonist have no power here in the presence of your light. Use it to warm your own life. Use it to create beauty. You are a generator of universal light, and the grid is restored. You are the master now. The narcissist's secret want is the biological debt they can never repay, but your victory is the radiant health that begins the moment you finally stop being their supply. Walk into your future with the fire of the chosen, because the predator has finally run out of time and you have just begun to live. The act is over, the mask is shattered, and you are finally free.